You know, it's weird. It's also because the stuff that SLA Marshall says in this book, he's making statements that they stand on their own. You don't need to be able to say, look, I was here, so therefore what I'm saying you should listen to. Like, no, the value of what you're saying should stand on its own. You don't need to be have some certain experience. It's like Leif and I talk about, and I would say you can't, if you're trying to prove a tactic to someone, like if I say, hey, when you get in this situation, here's what you should do. I shouldn't say, because this is how we did it when I was in Baghdad or when I was in Ramadi or whatever, or when I was in Nam. Like no, here's the tactic. And look at how it performs. Go and do a trial run. Go and do some force-on-force training. You'll see that the tactic works. And SLA Marshall, smart guy, great writer, could have said, hey, here's these tactics that I learned from these other people that just got out of, and that wasn't good. That's a little ego thing, isn't it? Just wasn't good enough for him.
Didn't you guys have a name for that? When someone would bust that out.
Like, Weeb, which is when I was in Baghdad.
Yeah.
When I was in Baghdad, hey, when I was in Baghdad, we did it like this.
Yeah.
And you can't stand on that, right? Is it good to have experience and say, hey, look, when I was in Baghdad, this is how we did it. Perhaps we should try it this way. That's one thing. But to say, when I was in Baghdad, this is how we did it, so that's how is the best way to do it, which is just not true. It's not true. Things evolve. The fundamental principles of combat leadership don't change, but the tactics that you use can definitely, you have to modify your tactics. The enemy's going to modify their tactics, so you have to adjust as well. And so to rely on your personal experience as how you bolster your arguments is wrong. It's an additive, right? It's good to say, hey, look, I've done this before, and this is a good way. I remember I had a situation where I was teaching how to go over the beach with boats, right? And I brought up some things, and I said, hey, look, I've done, and I had happened to have done multiple deployments on a ship. And when you're on a ship, you go over the beach a lot. And going over the beach is a complicated operation. I don't care. There's no easy way to do it, man. You got gear that's going to flood out. You got waves. You got tide. You got surf. You got sand. You got salt water. It's a nightmare. And that's one of the things that makes the SEALs good, is that we have to do this. So when you insert any other way, it's freaking easy. You step off a helicopter, everything's fine. You see, you get dropped out of a vehicle, everything's fine. You come over the beach, everything is a disaster. There's salt everywhere. There's water everywhere. Everything's flooded and broken, and you're freezing cold. It just sucks. And that's our normal mode of operation is right there. So everything else seems easy. But I had a guy that was saying, don't ever bring the boats in. And I totally disagreed with that. It was like, well, you have to think about what you're going to do, is basically what I'm saying. You have to think about what you're going to do. If you can avoid, if the boats come in and they flip, it's a real problem, right? It's a real problem. If there's surf, it's a real problem. And you need to have like elements ready to just handle the boats, because if something goes wrong, so you can't, you have to really think about what you're doing. And anyways, I almost fell back on like, look, I've done this. I've done over the beach over and over again. I know the deal. Right. It's like, no, actually, because the deal is many times when you look at the surf and you go, you know what, we need to swim in. It's going to suck, but we need to swim in, because risking the boats going through, and there's two things that are pulling at you. The waves are big, right? You're thinking, hey, we better get the boats to bring us in. That's actually counterintuitive, because the waves are big, man. You flip a boat over and it's a disaster. It's a disaster. So anyways, I almost relied on thethis is the way we did it, and I've done this a bunch. And it's like, no, that's not merit. You have to be able to explain, okay, here's what can happen. Here's the problems. And there's problems for both those. There's times where you swim in, there's times where you don't. But you have to understand why you're making that decision. You can't just blanket a decision, because it gets sketchy.